All right, so why don't we get going? So welcome everybody to this session, why stakeholders regularly ignore your project reports and how to fix that. So problem and solution. Well, a solution. We think it's something interesting. My name is Peter Taylor, and I'm delighted to be with you today. You may know me as the Lazy Project Manager. I was also very pleased to receive the award of PMO Influencer of the Year 2020, which is very exciting. I spend my time, doing sessions like this these days, like everybody else. It's all remote. But I am a conference keynote speaker. I am a project management trainer and coach and consultant. I particularly specialize in the world of productive laziness, which is where my famous book, The Lazy Project Manager, came from, and hence my title. Tim, why don't you introduce yourselves to the attendees today?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Tim Stumbles. I'm in wet Seattle, Washington, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Office Timeline. And what you'll see in the background is my orange office. It is supposed to be the same brand color as Office Timeline, but I've been notified many times by everyone on my team that it is in fact not the right color. It more looks like Home Depot. Anyway, so hi everyone. Glad you're here. Thanks.
If you hadn't told people, they'd just think it's like bad lighting or something. It'll have been fine. It'll have been fine. All right. Okay, let's get this going. So welcome everybody. All right. I mean, look, this is about reporting. This is about project reporting, status reporting. I mean, status reports, risk reports, board executive reports, resource reports, variance reports. We can go on. We can go on and on and on. There's just so much reporting that goes on. In the world of project management, and this is something I have a lot of experience in. You spend a lot of your time communicating, and I'll talk about that very shortly, but you spend a lot of your time communicating and also reporting, the more formalized part of the project communication. And there seems to be an ever increasing number of stakeholders who seem to want to know what's going on with life, with your projects, where you are, what's happening, what the risks are, what the challenges are, and so forth. So project reporting is pretty, it's kind of like a full-time activity, it seems. We want to make this interactive. So there's two ways we're going to make it interactive. The first way is we're going to be monitoring chat. If you want to put a question or a comment or a thought, then just go to chat and put it in there, and we'll come to that, of course. The other way I love making this kind of interactive is using a thing called Menti. Menti is dead easy to use, really simple. You just you grab your mobile device right now. I'm doing it right now, and you see you got menti.com. That's where you need to navigate to, menti.com. And then what will come up is a request for a code, and the code is at the top of the screen right now. I'm just checking. You can definitely see the code today, Tim, yes?
Yeah, I can.
We had some fun the other day. I was sharing the wrong screen. So yeah, there it is. So put that code in, 5038757. And we're going to start off very easy, of course. Put your name in. Tell us who you are. All right, Dimitri, Emily, Philippe, Toledo, Shirley. Okay, come on, keep them coming in. Don't be shy. We've got quite a few people out there. We want to see as many people. GP, someone being very mysterious there. Okay, I've got a couple of people coming in. I'm going to keep omitting people while we do this. All right, thank you. Keep them coming in, because we want you to use this, because we're going to use this for some interaction. We're going to use this for some kind of questions and ideas from you about what is challenging. So keep those coming in, please. Let's see lots of names up there. Brilliant. Chris, welcome. Pierre, I'm trying to keep up. Vitor, Maya, Diana, Honda. Fantastic. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds so you really get used to this. Then we're going to go on to the next question. This is fun. I've used Menti a lot recently. And when you're doing something like this, you've got to kind of keep things very interactive, engaged. It's very important. And for us, Tim and myself, it's very important. We want to hear what your thoughts are, because it's not just us talking to you. It's us listening to you and seeing what problems and challenges you facing your day-to-day lives. All right, thanks. That's loads of names in there. I'd like to know where are you from now? Okay. I know I've got a global-ish audience. We're not from every single country, but quite a few representatives out there. So we got someone from Greece. Greece comes in first. Germany, Canada. Well, yeah, right. Toronto, very proud. US, Antwerp, Belgium. Okay. I'm in the UK, so somebody else is from the UK. Belarus, Manchester, United Kingdom, Sao Paulo. This is good. Look at this global audience. Yeah, I'm based in the UK. It's not wet out there. It's just dark because it's getting close to the evening now. And Romania's come up as well. Serbia's come up as well. Belarus. I'm loving this. This is the power of this kind of session that we can run. All right, brilliant. Right, let's go to the real work now. Tell me, what is your biggest frustration over project reporting? Yeah. What is your biggest frustration? And it might be something nice and simple, like you just have to do it. But beyond that, let's see what specific ideas people come up with. Key those in. We'll take a look at it, and oh, right, okay, it's boring. Yes, it's boring. Nobody reads them. Yeah, you do that work, and nothing happens. You do that work, and nobody bothers looking at them. Well, you don't think they do anyway. You have to do it too often. No one is reading, no actionable reports. It's manual, it's a killer. It's amazing, isn't it? In the world of technology and all the digital systems we've got in place, how much time do you spend on manual reporting? I just need to move that so I can actually read them all. Reports not read. Yeah, pretty sure nobody reads it. It's a lot of that, isn't it? It's like pulling teeth to get it aligned to reality. True. You make it, nobody reads it. Stakeholders ignore them. It's time consuming. Inefficient information, rigid timing, repeat required. So this, yeah, Tim, I'm sure this is stuff that you recognize as well. So what I'm seeing there is pretty much, one, it's boring to do. Two, nobody believes that anybody actually reads them or takes them on board, etc. And three, it's kind of hard to get the information together. You recognize that well, Tim?
I do. I was really taken back by the boring comment. I can totally relate with that. It was my experience too when I had to do these.
I did a book called the the Project Manager Who Smiled, which was about Project Fun. Excuse me. And in it, there's a story from someone which I just loved, because this guy was in charge of producing some regular reports on some big projects that were going on. And he was producing report after report and putting them out there. And he was convinced nobody was reading them. So what he did was he created a thing called the Report of the Reports, which summarized all of the individual reports. And he put those out there. And it became the most popular report out there because people were looking at that kind of summary and they thought it was really important as well. So when he kind of stopped the joke after 2 or 3 weeks, people were quite upset that this report of the reports had disappeared. But nobody was reading the reports underneath. All right, fantastic. Thanks for joining in, everybody. This is great. So look, as far as I'm concerned, it's really all about communication. It's really all about the communication that you have to do. And communication's it's a tricky thing. I'm trying to communicate with you right now, and there's kind of there's a ways of going about it. But the fundamental rules that sit behind communication are as follows. You've got to deliver the right information. You've got to deliver it to the right person. You've got to deliver it in the right way. And you've got to deliver it at the right time. And you've got to do all 4 of those things right. Right information, right person, right way, right time. If you deliver the right information to the right person in the right way, and you do it at the wrong time, it's too late, it's too early, they're not paying attention, they're not listening, they're not understanding, they're not expecting it. And, just mixing any of these up. If you send the wrong information, obviously that's bad communication. If you send the right information, right way, to the right time, to the wrong person, again, you failed. You've got to get all of these things right, as I said: information, person, the way, and the time. And that's kind of the key at the heart of successful communication, ticking all 4 of those boxes. Because if you get any one of those things wrong, if you get any one of those things out of kilter, out of sync, then you're going to have a real problem. And the second thing around communication, and I hate to break it to people really, but look, reporting is not communicating. I know that's really upsetting to some people. You might be brilliant at the sort of reports that you can produce. But the point about this is, if you produce the most perfect 16-page report that's got every single item of data in there, it's got graphs and diagrams and charts and the most beautiful font layouts. And it's a work of art. And the fact that you put this thing together and you send it to every single stakeholder on the project and their best friend, the chances are you've reported correctly, you've communicated effectively to probably nobody, because you've broken the rules. You've broken these rules. You have not delivered the right information to the right person in the right way at the right time. All of the right information is probably in that masterpiece of reporting that you put together. And we know there's some incredible tools out there. I spent 10 years of my life in the area of business intelligence, all those wonderful things you can produce with all those ad hoc reporting tools, etc., that you can slice and dice information, etc. You know, it's something we take for granted these days, but it was pretty exciting stuff way back then. But if you don't send the right information to the right person in the right way at the right time, you will fail. And the chances are that project report that you put together and you think, it's a lot of work. You've said it yourselves. Project reporting is boring, it's mundane, it's hard work. There's a lot of manual activity. If I just put it all together in one project report and I send it out to everybody, they can go and find the information they want. And I tell you, that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. For a project manager, you do have to put a bit of effort in here. It is having the right information the right way at the right time to the right person, and it's very personable to that individual. And I think that's part of the problem when we come to talking about reporting to executives is they need it. They need all of these things right, but they need it in a format that is sharp and to the point and very simple for them to understand. But we come back to that. So I'm sorry, reporting, it isn't communicating. You are failing and you're probably wasting your time completely. Nobody will read them. You've said that it seems to be that nobody is reading your reports that you put together. And there's this wonderful Cohn's law as well, which is that the more time you spend in reporting on what you're doing, the less time you have to do anything. The stability is achieved when you spend all of your time doing nothing but reporting on the nothing that you are doing. And I love that one. And at that point, you've reached some sort of, reporting sort of, inactivity. And it's analysis paralysis is another thing, we talk about. But it's the point is, if you spend all your time reporting and you're not doing stuff, you are not making great progress. You are not progressing in the right way. You're not connecting to the people and sharing the information that you need to share. And why do we do it? We do this project reporting because there is a degree of governance, there's a degree of discipline and control, there is a degree of reporting up to the organization and wide in the organization as well, because we need those individuals' support and we need their guidance sometimes, and we need them to make decisions for us sometimes. So we really shouldn't be doing this for no reason at all. There is value in reporting. It's just how much time and effort it takes to do it. And the fact it is a little bit boring. Yeah, a little bit boring. Let me introduce how Tim and I got to know each other. Actually, it's not an emotional journey. Don't worry. It's a very business orientated journey. So I work for a company called Aptos. So what do I do? What do I do? As I said, at heart, I'm a project manager, but I've had the pleasure of building and leading some of the largest PMOs in the world. In some cases, we're talking about thousands of projects a year, hundreds of project managers all around the world. And Aptos was a pretty big PMO that I put together there. Aptos, they were in the retail market space, which obviously is a pretty challenging industry right now. But Aptos at the time was growing fast, and their world was of creating technology for retail organizations to do everything from showcasing their merchandise, what they had available to market, to go through the kind of selling, stock management, the commercial aspects of it, literally taking the cash, literally taking the credit cards, all of that, all the way through to what's known as the endless aisle of actually, once you've bought something, how would you like this thing, or we can get this one delivered to store or delivered to your home. That world, the world that you know and love, of course, even more so in this current situation, of course. So Aptos had this technology, quite a complex series of software solutions, and They worked obviously with their customers around the world, and the way it works is that one of these retail organizations, whether it be an IKEA of the world or a Primark of the world, companies like that, well, they would become a customer, and obviously they would want to deploy the technology as quickly as possible, and that created a project. So fundamentally, in this world, we were talking about external facing projects, client facing projects. So yeah, my project managers, wherever they were in the world, will be working with a whole series of customers, projects at various different stages. Typically, every project manager was running probably 4 or 5 projects at any given time. And they were at different stages, of course. So there's a complexity to the world of project reporting. Different projects, different customers, different stakeholders, different timelines, different statuses of project deployment. So, but the project manager had a responsibility to obviously look after their project team and the resources working for them, but they also had a responsibility to report out to the senior stakeholders. And for these guys around the world, the senior stakeholders were a combination of, well, they had to report to the PMO and they had to report to my team, of course. I was very interested in what was going on, what status there was, what challenges they were facing, what difficulties, what progress, what successes. All of that was important to the PMO. But they also had to report out to senior executive stakeholders inside our own organization, Aptos, and they had to report out to their clients as well. So typically, there's fundamentally 3 key areas of reporting that were required on a regular basis. And the challenge was, as you guys have already kind of touched on already, is that the project managers were busy. The reality of their world was, one, they were busy, and two, they were it was all about the commercial world. We made money by selling not only our software but also our professional services as well. So we wanted to maximize the revenue that came in through all of our services, including our project managers. So really, really busy guys is at the heart of this. And of course, they were using our internal technology. We had various tools inside, various systems inside the organization. We used a professional services automation tool. We had a Microsoft project, etc., etc. And it was very important for the project managers to keep these regularly updated so that we could trigger the commercial aspects, the billing, etc., and expenses, of course, for on top of that, but also of tracking progress of projects and beyond. But based on certain criteria inside that was set through the PMO, these project managers had to report up to the executives inside our organization on a weekly basis. It did depend. It was a mixture of, sometimes we just pick on projects that were interesting. Sometimes projects were of a challenged nature. Sometimes projects were just big and important and risky to everybody. So therefore the executives need to be on track. Sometimes the executives, they were good executives because they would go and visit these clients or have calls with these clients. Of course, at that point, they also needed to know exactly the status of the project. Our challenge really was, well, how do we do this? Because, bear it in mind, on a weekly basis to the senior executives, we could be reporting 20 or more projects at that point. Well, there's no way that they could allocate a nice solid hour for each project. They were never going to do that. The executives were busy people as well. And they need to move fast. They need to have a kind of a snapshot of the project status and be able to ask the right questions and challenge things and understand what they need to do. This was the world. Now, what happened was we were struggling with this, how we actually did this. And fundamentally, the presentation that we did to executives, or the project managers did to the executives, was based in PowerPoint. That was the most common tool that we use, and we standardized on it. We tried to reduce the complexity and the number of slides that we put in there to simplify it. But we had a particular challenge when it came to representation of where the project was in a kind of timeline, and there's no way, again, executives, I'm sure you recognize this, there's no way executives are going to sit down and look at a Microsoft project plan in some detail. Of course not. It was actually one of the project managers came across this tool, Office Timeline, which Tim is going to talk way more about when I finish my section. It came across Office Timeline and promoted it to the PMO. We tested it out and we just loved it. We loved it because it was simple. We loved it because it was visual. We loved it because it was easy to learn. The test for it was, can I, the head of the PMO, can I get to grips with Office Timeline and make sense of it, which I could do very, very quickly. And it became something that the executives really enjoyed seeing. They didn't always enjoy the messages behind what was being presented, because we did have some challenging projects. I'll be honest, not all of our projects were brilliant successes straight away, but it did give us that kind of ability to represent the status of the projects simply and very visually. And I think, this is something that's really, really important. So we'll come back to that. Tim, I know you're not in there. I'm going to let you leap in very shortly. But before we do that, I'd love to know, and again, we're back to Menti now. What do you think? What is your view here? I mean, are your executives happy with the format of the project updates? Yeah, make sure you're reading that question correctly. I'm not saying they're going to be happy with the status of the projects. I'm asking if they're happy with the format of the project updates that they receive right now. Are they totally happy? Are they never happy? Are they occasionally happy? What are you guys thinking? Oh, here they come. We're coming in now. Mostly, occasionally. All right. Seeing them over there on left hand. Rarely. And as I said, it's not a matter about are they happy with the message that has been delivered, but are they happy with the format of it? Some of them just don't care. Bad executives. Tim, you come across executives that just don't care?
I did, yeah. I did.
Let's let it run a little bit more. Okay, so it's interesting, I think, from my point of view. So we're definitely seeing that nobody believes that the executives are happy all the time, totally. And I guess that's, is anybody happy all the time? But mostly, 7 people responded there. That's not bad. Occasionally, rarely, never, and not caring. That's quite a few people over on the right hand side. There's as many. I think anything that's less than mostly is not good. I would say. So we're seeing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So most, 11 there over on the right hand side from occasionally downwards. Again, Tim, is this something that you come across when you start talking to organizations? You recognize this?
It is, and I was kind of laughing at the don't cares. I've been there, right? And something we thought a lot about in my past career, and I'll talk a little bit about it, is how do you capture their attention? How do you make it easy for them? How do you impress them? And we built some tools to solve those kind of problems. So the don't care, I feel you. Yep.
All right. All right, let's think about the challenges now, because I think this is going to be really interesting. And what are the biggest challenges that you personally face in project reporting to your executives? And so, we've heard a lot about the mundane, the boring, the effort, etc. So it'd be interesting to see what else that you can come up with. I mean, if that is the reality, then put that out there as well. But it seems to be that's a kind of given that we don't want to have to do that repetitive hard work. We don't want to do the manual stuff. It is boring. We're not even convinced that they read it when they do get it. Here it comes, right? Here comes up. Let's see what ever-changing requests. All right. So the format, the requirement of information, that keeps changing. Yeah, I recognize that one. Absolutely. To be honest, in Aptos, it took probably 6 months to get to a point where there was a general acceptance of the consistency of format. It's like, it seemed to me the executive go, well, that's quite interesting, but can we have? That happened quite a lot, but we did stabilize in the end. Not even they know what they want. No.
Love it.
Oh my God. My favorite story from the world of business intelligence was actually, I went to see an MD once, and I was like, we're talking about, what reporting do you want? And he said, well, what I want to do is I want to come in the morning and I want to see my screen green. If it is, I'm going to go away and play golf today because everything's okay. If it's red, then we got a problem. And the next thing I want to see come up is who's responsible, so I can actually delegate the activity to them and go and play golf. That was the MD's view of life anyway. What else we got? We've got visuals are too complex from the project. Now I think it's a great one you can pick up on, Tim, of this visualization. And how do you get so much detail and complexity in something that is very simple? Explain in a simple way what is going on. Yep. Complexity of the project and the dependencies. Again, that complexity. And projects are complex. I mean, they're big, scary things sometimes. They treat reporting messages as spam. It's not getting their attention there. Relatively immature organization with project management, so they are focused on bigger building blocks at the moment. Yeah, that's, it's a matter of priorities again, isn't it? And I guess maybe one way of dealing with that is to just, reporting purely by exception. I don't know, maybe that's a challenge. Understanding of what's in it for me, so what factor when selecting what information to include. That's an interesting one. It's part of a battle I've seen between project managers and executives. The project managers want to present certain amounts of information because they want decisions, they want to showcase the project in the right light, perhaps. And executives want to know perhaps some of the more challenging stuff so they can actually be ready for it. The last thing the executives in Aptos wanted was a client phoning up and shouting at them, and they were unaware of issues. Reporting expectation that keeps changing. Again, we've had that, the changing one. Not convinced Excel or Word report are read. Yeah, it's exactly that. Excel. Wow, God, I'm not an Excel lover myself. I know it has a place, but there we go. Goalpost changing, recontent and deadlines. We've talked about that. We've talked about the changing content, changing deadlines as well. Absolutely. We had to respond to that. As one of the reasons we wanted something simple in Aptos, was because those deadlines could change. Although we had, the cadence, and I'll talk about cadence in a minute, we had that cadence of regular reporting, and it was on certain days for certain parts of the business. There was always the possibility that the CEO or COO or someone would be going in to talk to a client, and they wanted information now. They wanted it now. They were not going to wait until following Thursday. They wanted it now. Each person has a preference when it comes to visuals. It's hard to satisfy everyone. I'll leave that one for you, Tim. Yeah, could satisfy everybody there. Make them take a decision. Yeah, that's kind of why we're kind of doing it. We want to keep them up to date, and we want to get them to make some decisions when necessary. All right, I think we've got some good ones there. I said I'd talk about recurring cadences because that is part of it, isn't it? Whether it's weekly or monthly or quarterly or more. And we had all of that, in the PMOs that I've run inside organizations, we've always had a regular cadence of project reporting, and project reporting up through the hierarchy of the organization, project reporting to the various communities out there as well. And they, it could be anything from a daily, weekly, monthly and beyond. And there was this regular cycle that takes place inside organizations. So, we're back to the reporting challenge. This is kind of where we pitched this webinar to you guys, and we do appreciate you turning up, because we said number one way to improve success probability of your project is to nail that stakeholder buy-in. If the stakeholders are really bought into everything that's going on, then they are focused, they are paying attention, they are listening, they are being there for you when you do decisions or help. So the question is, how do you do that? And the kind of answer is, we believe, is the number one way to nail stakeholder buy-in is to give them uncomplicated visual project updates so they really understand your project. But how can you do that? Which is a perfect opportunity for me to hand over to my co-presenter today, Tim Stumbles from Office Timeline. Tim, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Tim Stumbles. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Office Timeline. I'm coming to you today from Seattle, Washington. Sorry I couldn't be with you all. Before we even get started, I want to take a moment and give Peter a shout out. He was recently awarded quite a prestigious award. He was voted as the 2020 PMO Influencer of the Year by the PMO Global Alliance. Quite an accomplishment. Peter, congrats. Okay, Peter is actually dead on. The number one way to nail stakeholder buy-in is to give them uncomplicated project visuals they actually understand. But creating uncomplicated project visuals for execs, and particularly creating them in timelines, has been. But creating uncomplicated executive timelines is very painful. It was a difficult thing for me when I worked at Microsoft. And it was difficult for two reasons. The first was that our execs expected, wanted, and demanded most of their project reporting in PowerPoint. Secondly, we were in a recurring rhythm known as the rhythm of the business, or the ROB. The combination of these two things meant that we were creating manual timelines in PowerPoint often, far too often. and it took a lot of time. And that really was the origin for Office Timeline. And what I'd like to do now is show you what we built and how it solves those problems. It saves time when creating timelines, PowerPoint timelines, and it creates timelines that are simple and easy for executives to understand, not complicated, not complex. And I'm going to do that by showing you 3 samples or examples, 3 scenarios of how we can create a timeline from Office Timeline. But before I do that, let me just orient you very quickly. Office Timeline is an add-in, as you can see here on my slide. It is a PowerPoint add-in. Office Timeline is a PowerPoint add-in. It creates native PowerPoint slides. It adds this ribbon to PowerPoint that you can see here, and any slides that are created by Office Timeline can be used by anyone else who has PowerPoint. They can include them in their slide decks, or they can add things and make changes to the slides that you send them. There are really 2 types of slides that Office Timeline creates. One is sort of this classic waterfall view. In this one, you can see we got multiple tasks. We got tasks in a row. We got milestones even on top of tasks, milestones on the time band itself. In some tasks, we've got the task duration set on, as you can see here, 9 weeks, 10.2 weeks. Yet in other ones, the blue tasks, we don't have task duration set on. You can do all of this kind of control to really create a unique timeline that suits your preference with Office Timeline. Here's another example. In this case, switch number 1 has percent complete on, switch number 2 has percent complete on, yet the subtasks beneath them do not. They're just showing task duration. Okay, the other type of visual that we create is known as a swim lane visual. And in this visual, you get to put multiple projects or multiple phases or multiple teams, resources, whatever, on a single slide. And each of those phases, project, resources, has its own swim lanes for milestones and tasks. Here's another example of that. Okay, to get started, I want to take you to the new timeline button, and let's take a look at scenario number 1. In scenario number 1, I'm just opening up new timeline inside Office Timeline to create something quickly. I see I've got a bunch of templates there. I can choose from any of those, and that's what I'm going to do in scenario number 1. I'm just going to take an existing template, and I'm going to overwrite the data and add my data to it. So it opens up into the data grid. I can certainly type my data here and change the dates if I wanted to. I can switch milestones, shapes. I can change their colors, for example, and I can add a swim lane right here if I wanted to. But there's a faster way to do it, and the faster way is to just drag and drop this stuff. So I go over to the drag and drop, and now I want to move stuff around. Right? And so I take these, I put these dates here, I double click on campaign review here and overwrite it with whatever I'd like. I want to adjust the dates to get them just right. I can do that. I can drop this into the swim lane. So there's a lot you can do from the data view. You can scale timelines out. So let's say we move that to there, actually move it a little more, pop this up here, move this task all the way over here, drag it up. So I can really manipulate data quite a bit. I can add a new milestone from here, type my title in there. I can add a new task as well. Type my title in here, drag it over here, get the dates exactly right, and then just do a little bit of layout manipulation by doing that, scrolling that around, and then there's my timeline. Okay. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 1 is creating an existing timeline from a template. The challenge with scenario number 1 is you're spending a lot of time typing. You're typing your tasks, you're typing your milestones. If you had all of that data somewhere else, there's an easier thing to do, and I want to show you that in scenario number 2. All Office Timeline needs is a title, a start date, and an end date to create a slide. So in this case, I've got all of that information on Excel. Additionally, I've added a swim lane column. I just merely need to take this information, copy it, go back to PowerPoint, go back to that place I was, which was new timeline. But instead of using a template as I did in scenario number 1. I'm just going to create a timeline from scratch. I'm not going to enter any data in manually to set this timeline up. Rather, I'm just using the clipboard up here to paste it. The layout engine lays out something that looks like this blue slide below. And my next step after I do that is to go and apply a template, either an existing template that I've created and I've saved right inside of Office Timeline. So this might be my team template that we all share together, and I've saved it in Office Timeline. I might need to make a few modifications. Again, this is just to get the spacing just right. I want to put that up there and maybe move this title over here and drag it a little bit. So there is my timeline. That took about less than 2 minutes to create, and I've got a timeline by pasting data from Excel in scenario number 2. Scenario number 3 is different. Scenario number 3 enables you to import your data and connect it. So your timeline is now refreshable with the sync button. To do that, to illustrate that, I want to show you, I've got a project file open. It's got 87 rows of data, I think. So it's got a lot of data. So what I've done is 2 things. I've organized it into swim lanes. Again, you can remap swim lanes to resources or teams or whatever you would like to do during the import. I've also added a column called Executive Timeline. Our guidance is to try and keep your timeline slides to 30 points of data or less. And in this case, I've put a yes by the items that I want to show my executives. So let's go and import this now. We go back to Office Timeline. We go back to New Timeline. Again, all of this is inside of PowerPoint. I do import. There's a variety of import options. I'm going to choose Project. I'm going to browse for my file. There it is. I'm going to open that and bring in my data. If I wanted to remap a column, I could do that here. If I wanted to remap any start dates, end dates, you just do that by dropping down the remapping feature and choosing a different column. But in this case, what I wanted to do is show you some filtering. 87 is far too many items to put on a slide. I can certainly filter manually, but that might be tedious. So I can use some of projects filtering. Let's say I want to do level 2 filtering, choose those ones. Or in the scenario that I'd like to show you, I'm actually going to filter by using the filtering button that we have added into Office Timeline and that column that I added into Microsoft Project. In my case, I added a column called Executive Timeline, and I had set it equal to yes was my parameter. I apply that, and now I see I've got 18 rows of data that I want. I hit the import button, it creates a timeline, and I go and apply my template. That is scenario number 3, importing your data. What's different about scenario number 3 is this slide is now connected to your Microsoft project file. And I'm going to illustrate that by dragging the scope complete milestone to November 4th. And I'm now going to hit refresh or sync. It's up here. Office Timeline goes and checks the file and looks for any discrepancies. And it says you've got a choice to make. You either need to choose what's in your Microsoft project file, or you need to choose what's on the timeline. In my case, I'm going to choose what's in the project file. I'm going to true up my timeline with the Microsoft project file, and that scope complete milestone snaps back. Okay, those are the 3 scenarios I wanted to show you. If you're interested in more information on Office Timeline, you can go to officetimeline.com/pro, as you can see here. We do have a complimentary trial for Peter's webinars. If you want to go to officetimeline.com/14 days hyphen, let me say that again, 14 days trial. You can get a free activation key there to try it. And if you need sales or pricing information, please email officetimeline.com. So Peter, that's kind of what I wanted to walk through. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments about it. I'll hand it back to you.
That's great. Thanks, Tim. Right, let's just set that up. So yeah, please do send your questions through. Use the chat. I can see them coming in now, which is brilliant. Yeah, for me, Tim, I mean, just a couple of points. I've worked with a lot of project managers, and they can be tough, cynical beasts sometimes. But I'll be honest. I mean, they took to this so easily. So great job from you and your team in this kind of solution you've got out there. So, and the other thing that was really important was the kind of having corporate colors. There was if we were providing information internally, there was still this thing about having it in corporate colors, etc. And also the ability to have kind of default standard project plans, to kind of simplify things. That's definitely things you can provide. Yeah.
It's something we hear of over and over again.
Yeah.
The communication rhythms that we hear about from people in the PMO, they often want to standardize. They want consistency in their reporting. There's so many different tools that are driving reports, and they're getting to execs in all sorts of different kind of shapes, styles, and whatnot. So this idea that a lot of customers talk to us about is standardizing, getting their team to kind of find the right type of visual. There's a lot you can do with Office Timeline. We didn't even get into all sorts of the styling options, right? So you can click on this star and change it and have multiple different shapes, colors, sizes. You can put it above or below. You can turn the dates on and off. And so that's the kind of thing that PMOs generally sort of work on right up front, is kind of picking the styles that they want, and they create a template. And they send that template is just simply a PowerPoint slide, and they send it around their team, and everyone who has Office Timeline adds that template to the kind of template gallery that I was showing you. And next time they either want to create a new slide, a quick one, maybe they'll just use the template and override existing data, or they'll you can paste that, like I showed you with Excel, right into the template that they have. And it's generally going to pick up the colors and the themes and the sort of the branding and the styles that they picked up. That's a good question, Peter.
Yeah, cool. And it's a very professional thing. It feels it. So you got some great comments coming through. So Yakara has said that is cool, and wow, that's good for you. Philippe said, I like it. There was a question about, is there a recording of this session? Yeah, there will be. Everybody who turned up today, anybody who just registered and couldn't make it, unfortunately, due to other work commitments, I will send through an email at some point tomorrow once I process the video and got it up onto YouTube. But yes, you'll get all that. But the question, so the first question came from Jeffrey. Can sync work with an Excel file?
Yes, absolutely. Can work with product or with sync. A lot of our customers, we integrate with Smartsheet, we integrate right with Project, as you saw, with Excel, with Wrike. But some of our other customers, I mentioned PlanView earlier. I was just on a call with someone yesterday. They export from PlanView. A couple things that they do is they add that swim lane column. That's important. And then they add another column set to kind of designate whether it's sort of executive. So similar to what I was showing you. I will make one comment there. I think that was Jeffrey who asked that. None of this data, if I change something, so look at my slide here. If I kind of change something around and have changed the date, like I changed that date and changed that date, none of that data ever goes back when you sync and overwrites your Excel or your project or your Smartsheet data, right? That stuff is sort of gospel to us. We don't change, we don't manipulate that data. We only consume data, and if you choose not to sync to your project file, what you have on your slide stays. If you sync it, it will revert to what you have on your project slide. It never sends data upstream. I don't know if that made any sense. When I played that back in my head, I don't think it did, but I hope you get the sense of it.
I'll check it on the replay. I can edit that out if necessary.
Exactly.
What about this question? Can you import from a mind mapping tool like Xmind or Mind Manager?
You can import if you can get it into any kind of bucket that has a title, a start date, and an end date. So I'm not quite sure what Mind Manager does, but those are the requirements. So if they do have the ability to get something into Excel, for example, with those three criteria, you're good to go.
Okay, cool. The next one is from Emily is, what possibilities are there to visualize discrepancies between the current timeline and the baseline?
Yeah, good question. We call that actual versus planned. It's not in the product yet. We will be releasing a PMO version at the end of Q3 and sorry, end of Q1, and that is on the PMO roadmap. I would then expect that capability to be in probably sometime next year. We have the design, so the designs are done. We know what it looks like. We know what the end result will look like. It will be done kind of with a little bit of sort of shading, right? So the tasks will be shaded. I can kind of illustrate it with percent complete, but Emily, not yet on the roadmap. Good question.
Okay. So yeah, keep those questions coming in. We'd like to have some more.
Here's an example. Sorry, Peter. Here's an example of how we apply percent complete. Yeah, right.
Got it. So what about this dependencies?
Dependencies is something coming in the PMO version.
Right.
It's not there yet, but you know, a lot of customers, so it's a good segue. This is a native PowerPoint slide. So anything you can do with PowerPoint, you can do on the slide. So here's what I see a lot of customers doing. They go and they just add an elbow connector. So insert, right, I think there's shapes, where's elbow connector? Something like this. And they make sure you're joined. I've learned that the secret to elbow connectors is make sure you're joined. Okay, so there it is, right? So they've added this elbow connector. I want to show you, even though Office Timeline's algorithm can't interpret what this is, it doesn't forget it. So if I go here, you don't see that elbow connector. But if my task slips, I hit save, the dependency still stays intact. Another thing that we see people do is there's an outline feature in Office Timeline. You can hit outline. You can choose an outline, choose a color, right? And so they kind of can map a critical path and sort of do this sort of arrow thing. Good question. On the roadmap, not right now.
Okay. So right, so kind of a bit of a challenge from Gerald. Without the ability to show slippage or advanced activity, this isn't a reporting tool. It's just an alternative to an Excel or MS Project Timeline showing an estimated future outcome. Response, Tim?
Yeah. So I would challenge that. A lot of times, our execs really, and it depends on who your audience is, but a lot of our customers require status reports, scorecard, timelines and scorecards, timelines for their steering and stakeholder committees. And this seems to be fitting those needs. So it may be your scenario is different, but this is something that we see a lot of customers using for those types of scenarios.
Okay. I'm going to comment on that as well, because when we were using this in Aptos, I mean, our projects, we had slippages and all the rest of it. We had challenges, etc. And that was briefed to the executives. We had a kind of a supplementary slide that kind of talked about some big decisions that were taken on that. They still love this visualization. They still love this kind of reporting, that we work for them to show them the now situation. So, I think it still works in the right situation. Another question from Rudresh. Can you please take us through various existing template timeline offers right now? So just a brief look at the sort of templates, Tim.
Sure. Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay.
That's a inviting a question. Thank you for that one after the previous one. So a couple things here. So here's the existing template organized into swim lanes. A couple things that I'd call out is you can put milestones right on top of tasks. So they've done that here. You'll notice that this milestone doesn't have a start date or an end date or really anything around it. So if I click on that and I go to the style pane, you can see that they've turned off the title. Here's the button, the green button. If this was green, you can turn it on, you can turn it off. So you can really I guess what I'm trying to say is you can customize things in your templates however you would like. So let me see if there's a couple other interesting things. This one is interesting to me. It creates this illusion of parent task and child task. it's really done by dragging and dropping things around on that drag and drop that I demonstrated. You'll notice that there's really kind of two key elements. All the sprints here, they don't have a start date and an end date. The illusion happens because the parent task has what we call connectors down to the time band. So these are vertical connectors. You can turn them on, you can turn them off. You can turn them on for just some things and not others. And that's what they did here. They just turned them on for release 1, release 2, release 3. They nested beneath it their sprints, and they created, they added dates here and the duration. So that one is fairly interesting to me. I think this is kind of a similar sort of thing where they've got a sort of a parent task. They put milestones on top of that parent task, and sort of beneath it, they've broken out lead time, install AVs, test, stabilize, some really interesting things, and they've created kind of a legend. Two more. So again, another swim lane sort of visual. This one is global initiatives. I'm pretty sure this is out of a pharma company that we work with. But the idea is that they've got major markets and they've got tasks with some specific events or milestones along the way.
That one, Tim, just, I mean, it's pretty much exactly, because I used this to actually track the initiatives for the PMO. That's pretty much the sort of thing that we'd actually have. It kind of showed the roadmap for the PMO itself.
Yeah, yeah. There's another roadmap one that's interesting, and it's kind of the last one. I mean, this is sort of roadmap-y in the sense that there's not a lot of dates on it. You know, these tasks don't have dates. Some of the milestones, these orange milestones, they don't even have titles. They've turned the titles off, and I'm just relying on here. And it's organized into these kind of month buckets. So this is sort of a type of roadmap-y slide. So I hope that gives you sort of a sense of both the swim lane visuals and the traditional sort of waterfall type things like this.
Brilliant.
Thanks for that. Thanks
All
for
right.
that question.
No, thanks. And Tim, and you know, I think we're pretty much coming out of time. I can see no more questions right now.
Sure.
So I guess the things we should do now is thank everybody who's came.
Peter, there's just one more slide. I'd just like to close
Okay.
with. Can I have a minute?
Well, I was going to say, just kind of, how can they find out more? That's the bit I wanted to get onto.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just thanking people for turning up, and I appreciate it, and hopefully it's been of value, etc. But definitely the last word will go to Tim, and tell us exactly how you can find out more stuff.
Oh, you guys, so thank you so much. Our company size, we're about 60 people. We're based out of Seattle. It's a small company, but we love what we do. And if you want to go and learn more, go to our website at officetimeline.com. Really what I'd tell you, however, is you can go and get this tool and try it for free. Just go to officetimeline.com/download. And then you will need to go to this website to get a complimentary key for all Peter's guests. It's officetimeline.com/14-days-trial. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.